3 weeks ago, I woke up and in my hazy early morning dream state, I was scrolling through my news feed when this article jumped out at me. I sort of woke up with this sense of urgency, almost like I left the stove on all night or something. It turns out our ocean waters have become inhospitable to one of the smartest sea creatures on our planet. The sense of urgency eventually subsided, actually, when I realized that there was no immediate action I could take to help with this situation. There was no 2-hour meeting or cleanup crew. The state of our current oceans has to do with thousands and thousands of years of systems that have developed and have led to centuries of pollution. But don't worry, today's talk is not about climate change. It's actually about that feeling we get in the pit of our stomach when we see these big problems and know we want to take action, but we're not sure where to start. This is a feeling that's pretty familiar to me, and I'm sure to some of you as well. When I went to university, I studied engineering because I was going to use technology to solve all the world's problems. But it actually only took me a few semesters to realize that behind every new technology was an assembly line of natural resource extraction, CO2 emissions, child labor, and decisions made solely with the venture capitalist in mind. I was forced to look at solar panels and ask, what's going to happen to those cancer-causing nanoparticles when that solar panel breaks? Or look at a hydropower dam and ask what indigenous communities and ancient languages were destroyed during the construction of this project. And all of a sudden, solving all the world's problems became a little bit complex. I started to overload my coursework, take on a lot more research projects, and I became very critical of my friends' decisions, trying to make them be perfect activists, and I came off as a little bit judgmental. There would be days that I'd skip meals because I didn't have time, or maybe it was because the meat in the cafeteria was fed with subsidized corn that had GMOs, and was destroying the soil, and the farmers were living in poverty, and the vegetables were covered in pesticides and shipped across the country in trucks that were running on 5 miles per gallon, and you can see I would spin and spin, just trying not to make the world a worse place. Looking back, it's clear that I was actually unable to respond. I was unable to take care of myself, get straight A's, and be a perfect activist. So I quit. And like any rebellious native East Coast girl, I headed to the Golden Coast. And I've never been much of a barista, and acting isn't in my wheelhouse, so I decided to take a year off to help people. And I signed up to be an AmeriCorps Vista member. AmeriCorps Vista is a national service program where the government provides a small stipend to volunteers who are paired at a community organization for a year. And I was placed at Shakti Rising, which is a women's recovery and empowerment program here in San Diego. And my friends questioned this decision. Was this a good use of my time? I had never met an addict, really. And they asked, when was the last time you took a psychology class? And I sort of shrugged and said, well, hopefully I'll be useful, and if not, I'll be near the beach. And I prepared for my year off. A few weeks later, I ended up here. This is the doorway to Shakti Rising. And almost instantly, I realized this was not going to be a year off. Because how can it be a year off when this is where hope lives? Through my year of service, I learned what I came to understand as the most important tenet to emergent leadership: responsibility, or better put, one's ability to respond. The ability to respond to an email, the ability to sit with a woman who's crying all night, just sit because there's nothing you can say, the ability to address envelopes to donors for the year-end appeal, the ability to tell the coworker you share an office with that every time she speaks, you feel stupid because of your deep-seated insecurities. And while you know that's going to be a hard conversation, there are women on the edge of suicide and relapse that depend on your collaboration. Responsibility is a practice. It strengthens when we do what needs to be done, regardless of how menial the task may be. It strengthens when we lean into the discomfort and decide to stay. It has nothing to do with grades or accolades, and everything to do with showing up for ourselves, those around us, and our immediate community. I returned back to university for my senior year, and this time I was better able to take care of myself because I had realized that my do approach to problem solving was actually a reaction rather than a response. It was a reaction to the guilt that I had about my inability to save the world. A response, instead, looks like sitting with that discomfort. Courtney Martin recently wrote, we live in a time when there are unintended consequences for just about everything we do. You teach the man to fish and realize that you left out his wife and instructed him using a fishing line that is destructive to the coral reefs below. We live in a time when there are unintended consequences for just about everything we do. That's a really uncomfortable truth. It's really tempting to ignore this discomfort and to address the immediate issue. Teach the man to fish, get the sea lions to safer water somewhere else, and then call it a day. Look, I did a good deed today. It's even more tempting to say, well, look how complicated everything is. Everything I'm doing is going to mess up everything else, so I'm just not going to do anything. My senior year, I watched as my classmates struggled with these decisions, and they really wanted to figure out how they were going to use their newly minted degrees. They wanted to make a difference. But some of them were really disenchanted with the traditional career path. And they started to hear about my year off and this service year experience, and started to ask questions. They wanted to know, how can I find out about this? How do I apply? How can I use it to launch my career? And I started to ask myself, well, what if every student had access to alumni of programs like this? People who've taken a different path, who can be supportive and inspiring and make them feel like they're not alone. And then I started to ask, what if every student did launch their career with a year of service? Now, a couple problems would actually get addressed. Students graduating unemployed or underemployed would gain meaningful experiences. Not-for-profits struggling for resources would get committed young innovators on their team for a long period of time. And a generation of empathetic leaders with a heightened ability to respond would emerge. Imagine for a second if every CEO of the current Fortune 500 companies had done 1 year of service early in their career. So maybe they built houses with Habitat, or they tutored in an underserved school district. What would corporate social responsibility look like? What would corporate culture look like? And what would product development look like? It's pretty exciting to think about. And this is what led me to launch the next generation of service. We're an online platform and refuge for students who maybe aren't sure what they want to do after they graduate, but know they want to make a difference. We pair students with alumni of service programs, so AmeriCorps, Peace Corps, World Teach, and several other programs. We offer one-on-one guidance, vocational workshops, and access to our online database. But what's interesting is we've started to create a community of service year alumni and idealistic students. We've created a space where we can talk about the complexities around the social causes that we care about. And as we discuss these complexities, we start to see how all the social causes we care about interconnect and how the solutions affect each other in each movement that we're working in. And from here, we can actually start to explore multifaceted solutions. Solutions that we all can be a part of, that we can feel like we're a small sliver of. And from this place, we can start to feel the pit in our stomach feel like hope. So the evening after the story about the sea lions broke, I noticed a few other trends on social media. Some of my friends were working to get a price on carbon. This is a top-down solution that will encourage businesses to reduce their fossil fuel consumption. Some of my other friends were sharing vegan recipes, which is a way to reduce your personal carbon emissions. Now, these actions aren't for everyone, and they absolutely did not save the sea lions in that instant, but they are a response. Some of you may know exactly what you're going to do after you graduate, and some of you may feel completely directionless. I hope you all consider adding a year of service to your path. And if that's not how things unfold, I challenge you to strive for discomfort, to have hard conversations, and to respond.